So what is communism? Well, everyone knows that it was a political ideology that was popularized by the Soviet Union in the late 1920s. But do you really know what communism is? Better yet, is it as bad as everyone makes it seem it is? Well, I'm here to show you just about everything there is to know about communism in this short video, and you can form your own independent opinion on communism, not influenced by the outside media. Alright, back to the first question I asked in the beginning of the video, which is what communism is, or the most popular form, which was used by Soviet Union, which was a bit tweaked. Well, there are some main points. First point being, the government owns everything. In communism, there's no such thing as private property. If the government wants to use your house as a potato farm, then they will as they please, which in simpler terms means that everything is publicly owned by the public. The second point, the leader was a dictator. For the two people that don't know what a dictator is, it is basically if the president was able to do whatever he wants. The most famous communist dictator was Joseph Stalin because of his presence helping defeat the Nazis in World War II. And finally, the third point, communism is a classless society. Everyone except for the dictator is equal, receiving the same amount of everything, including paychecks. This is where communism as an ideology becomes flawed. Let me give an example used by my 7th grade civics teacher. Imagine there was a test, and half the class studied really hard for it, but the other didn't even bother to look at the subject they were going to have a test on. Using communism, all the students would get an 100, but is that really fair? Same goes for the Soviet Union and how it operated. Someone would be lazy and not work as hard, but the other really hard working, but both would get the same paycheck. Alright, that was a really oversimplified explanation of communism in 3 main points. Right now, communism doesn't sound half bad, right? That's what most people think. Communism has become a meme in general and used in a goofy manner. So when people ask a serious question, the answer would be different if communism as a whole wasn't not so memed. Because what some people would say, before I talk about the Cold War, I do have to mention the USSR's contribution to Nazi Germany downfall. The side of the USSR was part of was the Allies, along the UK and the US and some other countries. Although the USSR was bad technically, they helped defeat someone who was worse than the USSR, or a common enemy of, well, good people, although the USSR was. Anyways, after the bombastic end to World War II, the US turned on the USSR. Here's where we talk about the Cold War. In the Cold War, there were two protagonists, the US versus the Soviet Union. Another way to put it, communism versus capitalism. Which one is an evil virus of Satan? Well, you were taught that it was communism, and in a sense it is, because if you look at pictures of communist countries in the 1980s and the 90s versus capitalist countries in the same time period, then you can see the living conditions were not so well off for communism or communist countries. One good example is to look at photos of West Germany and then of East Germany. After World War II, Germany was divided to communist and then capitalist by the Berlin Wall. One side was capitalist and the other one was communist. After World War II, the Berlin Wall was torn down, along with...
Night from Berlin.
From the Berlin Wall specifically, take a look at them. They've been there since last night. They are here in the thousands. They are here in the tens of thousands. Occasionally they shout, Die Mauer muss weg, the wall must go. Thousands and thousands of West Germans come to make the point that the wall has suddenly become irrelevant.
In any sense is really bad. That's why the US stopped the Soviet Union in the Cold War. And just to be clear, the war was not only about economic ideologies, but of other things like big bombs called atom bombs or nukes. But the ideology difference was also very much present in the Cold War. Gorbachev, or however you pronounce his name, a Soviet leader, the last Soviet leader, ended the Soviet Union, and he actually died recently last week as of writing the script, which was actually the reason I'm making this video. Anyways, let me end this video by telling you an extremely, and when I say extremely, I mean extremely, brief history of communism. Classless society ideologies date back, way back, to ancient Greece and Rome, but are not technically the start of communist ideas, but kind of where it originated. In 1848, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels wrote the Communist Manifesto, and that was basically the birth or the original idea of communism. Then it was taken by Russian leaders, and the Soviet Union was born in 1992 and ended in 1991. See, really simplified history. Well, there was some brief info on communism. The main points: the Soviet Union, World War II, the Cold War, and the extremely brief history on communism. I don't think there's anything else to add.